Mask of a Diva, a Stan Kraychik mystery, Book 4, 1994. Author, Grant Michaels. Publisher, St. Martin's Press, New York. Author, Eric Aust. For all the divas, operatic and otherwise. Chapter 22. The next morning was damp and chilly, even though it was the first Friday in June. As I walked to the big house for breakfast, I saw 2 Boston police cruisers parked in the wide circular driveway. Branca's Alpha was not there with them. With the New England weather playing its usual tricks, I wasn't surprised that Daphne was taking breakfast in the garden room, rather than outside in the gazebo. She, however, unlike the weather, was in her usual chipper mood. After we greeted each other, she said, "The police are here cleaning up the last bits in Marcella's room. Perhaps the house will return to normal soon." Then she shuddered slightly. "Although I don't know if I'll ever forget the image of the dead woman on that bed." I offered one solution: paint the walls and rearrange the furniture to help the dreadful image fade more easily. "That may work," said Daphne. "Or perhaps I should remodel the room completely. Turn it into a solarium or a library or anything besides a bedroom." "Or," I said, "you could seal the room up, leave everything exactly as it is, blood and all, and create a shrine to Gothic horror." Daphne looked askance at me. "Have some coffee," she said as she filled my cup. "From that last remark, I think you might still be asleep and dreaming. Shrine to Gothic horror, indeed." I took a warm blueberry muffin, split it, and spread butter on both halves. As I bit into one piece, my teeth punctured an extra plump berry and sent an arc of purplish red juice into the air. Fortunately, the long spurt landed on the white plate in front of me and spared the linen tablecloth. The juice was the color of venomous blood. "Sorry," I said. "Close call." "It could happen to a bishop," said Daphne. "How is Bruce David?" I said. "Not so good. It's likely I'll be admitting him today." "What exactly is the problem?" "Anxiety, my dear. He believes that what happened to Marcella is going to happen to him. He can't separate himself from what's happened to someone else." "Maybe he did it," I said without thinking. Daphne gave me a worried look. "Maybe he did. I guess he won't be seen then. If ever again. It looks as though we'll have 2 understudies singing opening night." Daphne shrugged helplessly. "There's nothing else to do. I just hope this is the end of it. I'm getting a bit old for this kind of excitement and challenge." "I assume the maestro is all right today." "Yes," said Daphne, "though he'll never admit it. He's strong as a horse. He's taking breakfast in his room as usual. I've observed that he's extremely private in the morning. It's no wonder he never married. Never mind the pillows or the bathroom, and he can't even face another person over coffee." Was that all it was? A need for privacy? "By the way," Daphne continued, "I'll be driving you and the maestro to the opera house from now on. Since there's only the 2 of you going there now, there's no need for Maurizio to take you in the jitney. He has plenty to do around here." "Daphne, with all that's happened now, have you considered halting the production?" "Oh, my dear, that would be admitting defeat." "But murder." Daphne silenced me with a raised finger. "Yesterday, while you were at the opera house, I called an emergency meeting for our board of directors. Many of those people are also our investors, and to a person they unanimously agreed to continue with the production. In fact, they believe the notoriety of Marcella's death would only help ticket sales." Morbid economics. "The sad thing is," Daphne said, "they were right. You'd think by now I'd understand human nature, but I'll never fathom why grisly events attract people so much. Last night after dinner, the woman who is managing tickets called to tell me that every performance of Ballet is now sold out. And there are waiting lists. I don't know what those people expect to see when they come for the opera. There will simply be a new Amelia, and Marcella Ostinata certainly won't be making a return engagement." I nodded agreeably, but I still found Daphne's objective stance about the festival a bit disturbing in the face of murder. Later, when Daphne drove the maestro and me to the performance center, I sat in back while they conversed together in Italian up front. It may have been a mistake, since the maestro was oblivious to the rules of good driving as Daphne was, but they did both share the knack of keeping their conversation lively and in forward motion. So, what if the Bentley meandered a bit? There was hardly a quiet moment during the drive, but neither was it filled with idle chatter. What occurred was two intelligent people expressing ideas to each other, and using pleasant sounds to do it. I was eager for my first gumshoe task that morning. It had come to me the day before, when I was studying the security report during Branco's interrogation in Daphne's library. Within the huge matrix of numbers and codes in that report, I'd uncovered a few interesting comings and goings, or lack thereof. First among them was that during the entire 24-hour period before the discovery of Marcella Ostanana's body, and the 4 hours following it, neither April Kilkus nor Huang Young Cho had used an electronic key to enter or leave the performance center residences. Obviously, they had both stayed somewhere else, and I wanted to know where and why. Both April and Huang were scheduled to rehearsal that morning, but neither one was in the Opera House auditorium or the backstage area. I went downstairs into the subterranean world of the warm-up rooms. I wandered through the maze of corridors and listened outside the doors for the distinct sounds of a baritone and a soprano singing together. Even with the other singers vocalizing, it was easy to identify April and Huang by the timbre of their voices and the unity of their phrasing. They sang as though they were joined at the hip. I waited until they stopped singing to discuss a point of interpretation. That's when I knocked and entered the small chamber. It was very warm in there. The faces of both singers were moist and flushed from heavy exertion, though neither was out of breath. I suppose that was one advantage of the athletic rigors of operatic singing. You never gasp for air, at least not visibly to your audience. I apologized for interrupting them and told them quickly that I was now working as an official deputy to the Boston police. Then I told them what I discovered on the security report. Huang said angrily, "I don't care what you found, and if the police want to question us, let them come in person. I'm not wasting time with some self-appointed lackey." "I am not self-appointed," I protest. "Then where's your identification?" demanded Huang. "It's on its way. I only started working yesterday." As if to ease the situation, April interceded and spoke calmly to me. "The explanation is very simple. We needed some privacy." Huang said to me, "You're not staying here at the center, so you wouldn't know, but the place is more like a dormitory than a hotel. You can't do anything without some damn computer and voice camera recording it." I stared at Huang Young Cho like a shocked schoolmarm. "Are you saying you spent the night with this woman? I thought your culture deplored extramarital sex." Huang said, "It's the 90s, man. Get with the program." How strange to hear American pop talk spoken with perfect elocution by a trained operatic voice. April added, "Besides, interracial couples are sanctioned now." Nice word, I thought. Sanctioned implied all kinds of approval by government, community, even church. Maybe someday we'd be able to say it about same-sex couples too. Sanctioned. April went on, and Huang and I wanted to celebrate my recording contract. "Tell him the truth," spat Huang. "We got married." "What recording contract?" I said. "First things first." April explained. "Deutsche Phonogram International had planned to record this production of Belo, and now that I'm to be singing Amelia at the festival, they've asked me to do the recording as well." Huang said, "I'll be singing Renato, and the maestro will be conducting. It's his first recording, too." "It's a first for all of us," said April. "A real historic event." "I see," I replied. The maestro's name will help sales tremendously, said April. Huang took up the reins and impelled their enthusiasm to a full gallop. And now that April is singing Amelia, there will be someone young and beautiful in the role, as there should be. So Deutsche Phonogram has promised a videotape too. They're even talking about a live satellite broadcast for one of the performances. Imagine that. Television around the world. April was soaring too. This is going to put us high on the list of world-class desirables. I said, and how convenient that Madame Ostinata is out of the picture. You'll excuse the pun. Suddenly, two large operatic jaws were gaping loosely at me. I said, when did all this happen? April said, I got my contract yesterday afternoon, but as far as I know, Deutsche Phonogram has been negotiating with the festival for weeks. The maestro too, I said. Huang replied. We only know what we heard yesterday. Did Marcella know about it? Probably, said April somewhat cautiously. Who else? I said. Both singers shrugged. April said, I imagine everyone knows by now. We haven't been exactly quiet about it. She laughed nervously. Funny, I said. I haven't heard a thing. They both sniggered. Huang said, Well, you're not exactly in our crowd. You realize I'll have to tell all this to the police. April said, You can do whatever you want. But now, just leave us alone. We want to try this scene one more time before rehearsal. I left them and headed upstairs to the backstage area. Rick Jansen was at the stage manager's booth, clipboard in hand, talking with Rhonda Luca. He was trying to convince her about something for her part. Rhonda nonchalantly rearranged the cue sheets on her desk. As I passed them, I overheard Rick say, Of course we know what the original specs were, but Sir Jonathan wants a minor change to the set. Now that there's going to be a new Amelia, he wants to show her off more. She's going to be dancing. He's going to change some of the lighting too. We'll see about that, said Rhonda. You'll do it, said Rick. You know the stage director has the final word in everything. He's not God, said Rhonda. He is as far as you're concerned. When Rick saw me passing by, he said to Rhonda, I'll finish with you later. Then he left her and caught up to me. I owe you an apology for what happened yesterday, he said. I don't know what came over me. I said, let's just stay clear of each other. I have nothing against you, and I didn't mean to hit you. Fortunately, you missed. I have this problem. Obviously, I said, there are people who can help you. I just need to talk about it, and I was hoping you'd... Hey, pal, I interrupted. I barely know you, and after our encounter yesterday, I certainly don't trust you. Maybe that can change. Not for me. You see, he said with a desperate look at his charming eyes, John wants to get rid of me. He says I'm a fake. Didn't he know your credentials when he hired you? I mean, he's throwing me out of his bed, said Rick emphatically. But I'm not fake. I like men, and I'm not ashamed of it. I just don't like all that girly stuff, the kissing and the lovey-dovey talk. And that's really what John wants me to be, his girl. Leave him then, I said curtly. I can't. He's done a lot for me. Gave me this job, got me on my feet. You mean on your back? I told you I'm not the woman. It's not being a woman. It's being a receptive man. Some people find a lot of strength in the receptive role. Rick considered the idea a moment, and then he made a loathsome frown and said emphatically, No, that kind of thing is for femmes, not for me. I refrained from telling him about the burly trucker I once dated, whose boot prints were always marring the ceiling of his sleeper cabin. Hey, it's cool, I said in my clinical voice, the one that was comfortable telling lies. Anal sex isn't for everyone. How about you? Said Rick. That's hardly your business. So you think it's disgusting too? I don't share your opinion, I said, as though I led the most balanced, integrated sex life on earth. Then maybe you can help me. Yesterday you wanted to pulverize me. Today you want sex therapy? I suppose for some there was little difference. Rick said, "The truth is, I think I like you." "What?" "I just don't know how to show it." "Then I'd suggest you let it go," I said, hoping he'd relate to a cliche of psychobabble. "Let what go?" he said. "It," I replied. "Whatever it is you think you like about me, just let it go." I wanted to quell Ricky's dubious new ardor fast, and I wanted to get away from him before he started swinging again. With violent people, you never know what's going to set them off. "Besides, I already have a partner," I said, then added with finality, "and I don't play around." "It can't hurt if we talk," he said. "We might have something in common." "Like what?" I said. "Well, I have a great body and a really thick—" "Why?" I suddenly heard myself screaming. "Why are we talking about this?" Rhonda called out from her desk. "Quiet, please, over there." Rick leaned toward me and whispered like a secret lover. "You're very passionate. I like that. And I think maybe you really want me too." I pressed my face toward his as if to surrender to my hidden desire. I whispered, "I'll tell you what I want, okay?" "Oh, yeah, tell me." "What I really want from you." "Yeah." "What I really hope you're going to do for me." "Oh, baby, will I ever." "Is tell me where you were when the soprano was murdered." Rick said, "I'll tell you anything you want, baby. Just let me be hard inside you." "Alas, doll, those stakes are too high." He pulled away suddenly and looked at me with disgust. "You know," he said, "you flirt like a coy little bitch. But you're really hung up about sex. You're probably no damn good anyway. I'll bet you lose out on a lot of good dick." "I don't keep count. Someone like you doesn't have to." Well, despite his bad manners, the Ricky thing had identified a singular void in my life, at least from the traditional gay perspective. My celebration of sex in terms of sheer body count was relatively low. Fortunately, our debate on the inherent virtues of promiscuity was curtailed by a loud argument coming from the auditorium, loud enough to snake its way backstage. I peered out from the wings to see what was going on, and I saw the two most improbable opponents, Jonathan Byers and Maestro Toscanelli, going at each other. "The music," said the maestro with a strangled voice. He was standing beside the rehearsal piano, gripping its edge for support. "Always in the music is the answer. Here is Amelia in danger for her life. So what do? She must be afraid, not make a dance. You cannot make her dance around the stage. You will make her be a fool." But Jonathan Byers was adamant. "Look, old man, I never considered putting it in before because I didn't have the raw material for it. But now I've got an Amelia who can sing and act and dance. I want to show that even in the face of death, it's her lust for the younger man that's driving her. She'll be singing regrets to her husband, but her body will be telling the truth. Just look at her yourself, for Christ's sake." Jonathan Byers pointed to April Kilkis, who had taken her position on stage with her Huang Young Cho. "She's a real woman," said Byers, "not a brisket of beef like that other one was. So how can you sit there and fuss about the bleeding notes?" The maestro persisted. Verdi knows what he wants. Verdi would have done the same thing in my shoes." "You are breaking sacred laws of opera." "Balls," said Sir Jonathan. "Let's ask her, huh? What do you say, April? Do you want to stand there like a statue while you're singing, or do you want to put some blood between your legs?" April responded like a penitent who was entrusting her fate to the Archbishop. "You can do whatever you want with me, Sir Jonathan. Anything. Just don't let me sound like Calus at the end." "At the end of what? The opera or Calus' career?" "Don't worry about that, love," replied Byers. "They'll compare you to Calus and then forget who she ever was." Meanwhile, the maestro was shaking his head in anguish. "How can you do this to Verdi?" April turned toward the maestro with remorse in her eyes. She seemed genuinely distressed to be going against his wishes, or else She was rehearsing and perfecting her new role as a prima donna. She tried to placate him with her silken voice. Maestro, please understand, it will only be for the stage production. When we make the recording, you will have the final word, I promise. The maestro said, Who are you to promise me something? You are a singer. His voice cracked at the word. Do you think I care about a recording? I care only what the audience will see when the curtain goes up. That is opera, not on a recording. Jonathan Byers said, Maestro, please, I'm sure we can reach some agreement between us later on, huh? But for now, just indulge me and let's get on with the rehearsal, shall we? I will do better, said the maestro. I will ignore you. He turned from his place near the piano and walked off stage, but just as he entered the wings, he turned back and made his final pronouncement to the assembled cast and crew. I am no longer needed here. There should have been a final chord and an ominous rumble from the timpani as the maestro exited backstage. Oh, cock and balls, splurted Jonathan Byers. Then he called for his assistant director to oversee things for a few minutes, while he went out and tried to appease the maestro. As Byers left the auditorium, I heard him mutter angrily, One prima donna from another. When Marcella Ostinata had been alive, her petulance had provoked everyone else to distraction. But now those same people were vexing each other with a new peevishness, and I wondered what psychic vice had been released by the first Diva's death. I went downstairs to do time in the wig room. I wanted to question Daniel Carafolio, anyway, on his whereabouts the night of the murder. The security report had showed me that Daniel had left the performance center around midnight and didn't return until after 7 o'clock. The following morning, about an hour before, Mathilda had discovered Marcella Ostinata's body. But when I got to the wig room, Daniel wasn't there and the door was still locked. I guess he intended to mourn the Diva's death a full 40 days. Well, with him out of the picture, maybe I'd do some real work. The work I was originally hired for and paid to do. If I could just get inside. So back upstairs, I went to find someone to open the locked door. The best bet would be Rhonda Luca, with her big ring of keys. I asked her to open the wig room, and she said, No Daniel today. Missing in action, I guess. Give me a minute, she said. While I waited for her, I noticed Maurizio hanging around the locked rail backstage. He seemed to show up everywhere like a stage sprite. He looked toward Rhonda's booth, where I was standing. I waved to him, but when he recognized me, he turned and bolted to the side wall, then leaped up onto one of the steel ladders. The nimble young man climbed up toward the catwalks high overhead. Don't worry about him, said Rhonda when she saw what I was looking at. He's always hanging around back here, and he's always up there, too. I think he likes the thrill of looking down on everything. Isn't it dangerous? For some people. What's up there? You want to see? We can go for a little climb later. No, I said quickly. Just curious. Rhonda spoke like a shop foreman. Up there is every line and pulley that's connected to anything and everything that flies from this stage. Lights, scrims, scenery, curtains. She was clearly proud of her domain backstage. The grid is like the spinal cord of the stage. Do you ever go up there? Of course. I want to know about every corner and cable on my stage. It doesn't bother you, the heights? Me? She said, and then betrayed a loud bah. I go rock climbing just to relax. To relax? The only rock climber I ever knew did it for the life and death thrill of it, man against nature and all that. Not me, said Rhonda. After running a show like this one, climbing a sheer slab of rock will be downright relaxing. I watched Maurizio vanish into the overhead world of steel mesh and girders. He moves like a monkey, I said. I thought you had to be in the union to do that work. Rhonda said, he's a paid member of the riggers and floormen's locale. He is. Rhonda looked around to see who was listening, then said surreptitiously, compliments to the same woman who's footing the bill for the rest of the festival. How did she get Maurizio into the union? How else, said Rhonda, rubbing her thumb and first two fingers together. Besides, when we had the riggers here working on the grid, that kid climbed right up there after them. I guess they took a shine to him. A lot of people lose their cool when they get up there, but he was right at home, jumping around the beams, hanging onto cables. He's not afraid of anything. Then why does he keep running away from me? Rhonda grinned. Are you kidding? Anyone can see he's soft on you. Hardly soft, I said, but I'm already spoken for. You sound like a goddamn maiden. Then she cackled and said, That's not going to stop how he feels. Don't you know anything? What am I supposed to do? Rhonda snorted. What, you need lessons? Eventually I got her to unlock the wig room, and I did some high productivity fussing around in there for a few hours. Then I got restless, which usually happens when I'm working alone too long. So I figured I'd go and find Daniel Carafalio. He was probably shut away in his room at the performance center, wearing his widow's weeds and weeping in the darkness. I found him there all right, and his condition wasn't far from what I'd imagined. Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold: to offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides, and in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.